on behalf of your senior senator, Stuart Symington.
Well, thank you.
As a little birthday remembrance.
Well, thank you.
The first vice president to leave the United States in all of its history was John Garner. He got as far away as Japan. But the first vice president to really insist the vice president have some authority and put him on the National Security Council, on behalf of that beloved and popular and able junior Senator Ed Long, I want to present you the first pair of vice presidential cufflinks. You brought great credit to that office, and we all love you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. I know I share the gratitude of all here that you have come, as well as President Truman's personal respect and appreciation. We'll excuse Vice President Johnson, who must catch a plane immediately for Chicago.
I'm awfully glad you're all here, and just as soon as Mr. Truman is 100 years old, I'll invite you again. In the meantime, we have a presentation to make to the President here of a plaque. Mr. President, if you'll come over here.
I will.
We have an etching of every president since George Washington, and this happens to be Mr. Truman in here, in case you don't know it. We're clear down to Mr. Kennedy. We try to give Mr. Kennedy each year, but the White House says don't do it. So we only mark it. So here you are, Mr. President. I hope you enjoy it.
A number of distinguished guests could not make the trip from Washington because of the press of public business. However, it was possible to arrange a brief film of a number of these distinguished persons to extend their greetings. I think we'll turn to the film at this time. It's narrated by Bob Core of Washington.
Lieutenant Wadsworth, gentlemen, Mr. President, it is an inspiring and heartwarming thing to be included here among your many friends who love you, who admire you, and who respect you. Many of us have had the honor, which we'll never forget, of serving you. May you have many, many more happy birthdays. And may we be privileged to join with you in celebrating them.
Mr. President, we have submitted you really to quite an ordeal.
Oh, you hadn't. I like it.
But all of us really are very honored to be a part of this hometown birthday party, and notably to have Mr. Talge ask us to be a part of this. It's a great pleasure to present our friend, our neighbor, and our most distinguished citizen, President Truman.
Dick and I have many things in common, but the thing that we're proudest of, that we share together, both of us outmarried ourselves. Missouri is a show-me state, but no state in the Union has two better senators than this state, in the form of Stuart Symington, the senior senator, who, except for his foresight and vision, America would not be as prepared today as we are, and the popular, beloved Senator Long, who has already made a name for himself in the United States Senate. We missed your leadership in Washington for a long time, but I guess you've earned the right to come home and spend some time with your friends and your family. We all hope you'll be visiting us back east a lot more often. We have a man in the White House today who speaks your language, Mr. President, who has a mental sign on his desk that says what you have said so often, the buck stops here. And who knows that a leader has to dig his spurs into some sensitive places from time to time. We've lived through some fast-moving and exciting years. And I want to make this prediction today, that you are not the last man that's come out of Missouri. Mr. President, you had more than an act for survival. You knew what had to be done, and you did it. You knew what had to be done because you were one with the people you led.
father you could think more things to do on a rainy day than any man had ever lived. There are some thoughts that I would like to share with you today. The thoughts that have been going through my mind about the way things are shaping up at home and around the world. And I'm not going to make you a political speech, although it's too late. That's the only reason I won't. The one most important need of our time is for us to learn to live together with our fellow men in peace and harmony. One lesson we have learned since the last war is that if we are to achieve a lasting peace, we must have a positive, forward-looking program to satisfy the basic needs of all the people. The most important of these is more and better food. There are throughout the world hundreds of millions of people who still hunger for just plain and almost any kind of food that'll keep body and soul together. I found that out by experience. I found that out by seeing the very things that I'm talking about. Hunger knows no boundaries or distinctions, not of national origin, color, religion, race, creed, or color. Differences of political persuasion make no difference. We in this country have made enormous strides in agricultural development. We have achieved this in a free society, working with free institutions, and mark you, this is the important difference. We achieve this by working in cooperation with the government and not by dictation from the government. That's the difference between us and that good-for-nothing company over there. Are rather panicky and very frightened at the threat of communism, as if they were in imminent danger of a communist takeover. Now, there is no minimizing the military might, the skill of their propagandists, or the fanaticism of the Red leaders in their determination to drive to a communized world. But we were never intimidated by them. That's the one reason why we have diverted so much of our economic strength to military defenses. When I was in Potsdam, we were discussing a free government for Poland. Winston Churchill was sitting on one side of the table and Stalin over here, and I presided because I was on the head of the state there. We were talking about the free government in Poland. Churchill thought he'd add to the thing, and he said, you know, the Pope, who's the head of the Catholic Church, will not like it if Poland doesn't have a free government because nearly all the Poles are Catholics. Well, Stalin leaned on his elbow and looked at me and said, how many divisions has the Pope? That's what they understand. So we have more divisions than they have. The communists know full well that neither militarily nor economically are they a match to the might and will of a free people. Not only is time on the side of the free, but we are beginning to see little cracks in the Iron Curtain. And there are some stirrings of the people behind that curtain. For as these people are educated, get this, as they're educated, and as they get a taste of the advanced standard of living, the cracks will widen, and in time there will be no denying them the freedom they too well seek to demand. I believe that an all-out war between the East and the West is more remote now than at any time since the end of World War II and the advent of the Cold War. Of course, what we have is a peace based on fear of total destruction, a fear real enough to act as a compelling deterrent on any hot-headed revolutionary. We had an underpass right down here on Independence Avenue then, when I was youngster here, going to school, and it had an approach like this. It went straight into an underpass, and same on the other side. And I fussed at the highway engineer and said, "Why don't you fix that terrible thing?" "Oh," he says, "that's not dangerous. It's so damn dangerous it's safe." And that's the way we are in the world right now. I know very well that they'd be destroyed as well as we would if it came in. As for the future of man, we may expect that as he progresses and learns to live in peace and harmony with his neighbors and his nationalist rivalries, give way to the common interest and cooperation, we will then be able to dispense with the costly burden of armament and devote our energies and resources to the improvement of every living person's lot everywhere. Now, a word or two on a subject in which I will always have a special interest. Politics, believe it or not. We're in the year of a presidential election, and as we approach the heat of the contest, I hope that the candidates and their spokesmen use discretion in their campaign oratory, that they keep loose talk to the minimum, and that not sacrifice our national interest for the sake of a narrow partisan political advantage. Some candidates for the high office of president, in the heat of campaigning, abandon all self-discipline and tend to make charges and allegations that could well serve the interests of the enemy. Now, I'm not exactly a mild-mannered campaigner myself, and I've been known to hit the issues pretty hard, but I've never injected our foreign policy into any campaign. I've always stuck to the domestic issues and have never engaged in personalities. This, at the same time, as one who prizes his freedom, I believe that we should never discourage criticism, nor should we resent it, especially when it is constructive, even in the field of foreign affairs. But it's very, very dangerous and very difficult to get out and promiscuously discuss the foreign affairs of the world when you don't know anything about it. I set up an intelligence agency in Washington called the Central Intelligence Agency to furnish me with information which was not available at the present at the time. And unless you know all that's in that Central Intelligence Agency, you better keep your mouth shut on foreign policy. There's plenty of other things you can fuss about. But what I'm trying to suggest is that in the contest for high office of the President of the United States, that we should use great care to make sure that the critics of foreign policy stay within the bounds of the reasonable and with due regard to national security, and that these critics should realize that when we go outside the permissible bounds, we run the risk of embarrassing the President of whatever party he may be in his constitutional role as Chief of State and the spokesman of this nation to the outside world. We are traditionally a generous people, and it is in our nature to share our blessings with those less fortunate. After the Second World War, we set a precedent that never had happened in the history of the world. We helped our defeated enemies to recover and become self-supporting. It never was done before in the history of the world. It will be the greatest thing the history will say about this country, that we were looking for people just as well when we gave them a licking as we were when we tried to keep them get them licking us. We're historically especially responsible to the need of the hungry. The sad fact is that in many parts of the world there are many who suffer from hunger. This call we must answer. In China, for example, where the communist regime has managed to distribute hunger while arrogantly discouraging outside help, we should not be too concerned about their bad manners, but find some acceptable way to feed the hungry. And finally, yours is not only the most useful and honorable occupation, you have a most important mission to perform as well.